two, one. We are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintrom. How are you doing this week, Seth?
I'm great.
All right. We have a lot to talk about this week. Not a lot of great news in the EV world, unfortunately. But we're gonna start with Tesla, as we usually do. And one person that had a great week this week is Elon Musk, who just started the week with a nice little $26 billion payday. The lucky bastard. Yeah, I mean, I got like this was like Monday morning news, like first post of the week. I get the filing from the SEC. I see that. I thought, well, I mean, kind of expected it at some point they were gonna do it. So I write my post real quick. I'm like, Tesla moves to give Elon 26 billion. It's 29 billion, but like when you remove what he has to pay for the stock options, it's basically a 26 billion dollar profit. So Tesla moves to give Elon Musk a $26 billion deal, assuming that they're going to go for a shareholder vote. And then like I post this and everything. And then I start like reading through it in details through the SEC filing. And I'm like, no, actually, this is a direct award from the board to Elon. No shareholder approval needed. This is a done deal. 96 million restricted shares going in Elon's pocket as stock option vesting over the next 2 years, and a 5-year a 5-year holding period. I think here, yeah, 5 years holding period. 23 and 34 per share. So that's what he has to pay. So yeah, it's about like $3 billion. But then he can sell them, which at this current price is like a $26 billion award. Now, if there's a God and there's some justice in this world, hopefully in the next 5 years that he has to hold these, I think they're all technically it's going to be 7 years because some of them is going to vest later and then the 5 years holding period. Maybe Tesla stock is worth $23 a share. It doesn't make any money off of it. I don't know. We have to see about that. But that's already approved, going in Elon's pocket by the board. And then the board announced that a longer-term CEO award is being put together right now and is going to be put to a vote in November at Tesla shareholders meeting. So this
because 26 billion is not
enough.
Going to cover it. Not enough.
Not enough. Elon is already the largest individual shareholders. Therefore, he's incentivized to create shareholder value. But that's not enough. So he needs to get more money out of this. And obviously, Elon is like using his approach that, oh, I'm doing that not for the money. I'm doing that because I need more control over Tesla, because I fear that if Tesla develops AI and I don't have control, some activist investor could come in and take over, which is extremely unlikely. I mean, Elon has already incredible control over Tesla shareholder base, like incredible. Last earning call last month, he was saying that if he goes crazy, someone could take control of the board and fire him. The dude has been going crazy for years, and not only the board, the shareholders and the board are not firing him, they just gave him a $26 billion deal. It's I don't know where his paranoia is coming from, honestly, because he has the firmest grip on the large company that I've ever seen.
Maybe he's not worried. He just wants the cash.
Oh, wow. That's a crazy conspiracy theory you have there, Seth.
I know.
Yeah. Other than like, what is his name? Zuckerberg, through preferred voting shares, has incredible control over Meta. But other than that, like Elon is unprecedented control over Tesla. So this deal basically represents like a third of the deal that was rescinded by a judge for good reason, by the way. So Tesla, it looks like Tesla is finally giving up on that. Like the appeal process, the Supreme Court and everything is, they say there's not, they put a no double dip, they call it a no double dip clause in this contract. So he cannot get both if the Supreme Court of Delaware rescinded or in this, they cannot overlap. Yeah, there's no mention of him coming back to work full time at Tesla, nothing like that. Just that he has to stay there for 2 years. It's vested over 2 years, and then 5 years that he has to hold after that. So there's they haven't learned from their mistakes, other than don't lie to shareholders through proxy statement like they did the first time. But they found a nice loophole for that. Don't even do a proxy statement, just award it directly, and then you're good to go. It's pretty nuts. And what's pretty nuts is, like, okay, first of all, 26 billion is basically right now as much money as Tesla earned net income over the last 2 decades since its inception. So Elon is getting awarded what Tesla has produced entirely. So all of the real value that Tesla created, the real income, all going to his pockets, which is nuts. Now, obviously, shareholders are going to say, yeah, but he created a ton of shareholder value through boosting the stock price. That's true. I mean, if you sell right now, you're right. You made the money. It's just that, I mean, most people that are looking at Tesla objectively and looking at the earnings per share going forward, and the price to earning ratio right now, it's extremely unlikely that this is going to be maintained long term. I'm talking long term here. I don't know about stock movement in the short term. Tesla stock is extremely manipulated, so it's hard to predict. But long term, if at one point it comes back to the fundamentals and the earnings, it would be maintained. So you have to, when you're talking about creating shareholder value long term, you have to take a long term view. You cannot just like, oh, the stock pop up 20% today, Elon just created a ton of value, and that's not really how it works, because it can get all erased within a few years, within a few hours, really. So that Elon gets 26 billion, Tesla's entire net income since inception, and also Tesla's sales are going down, Tesla's earnings are going down. So it's like, why reward a CEO when the company is in clear decline other than the stock price? And what's happening is even crazier right now. So last week we focused a big part of the show on Tesla's losing its first class action lawsuit, its first wrongful death lawsuit involving an autopilot crash. So we talked about the jury awarding, putting 33% of the blame on Tesla, the rest on the driver, obviously, and Tesla having to pay basically $240 million. I think I might have got it wrong in the last podcast because it's a bit complicated. Basically, there's compensatory damages, which is our 109 million. Tesla has to pay that, and then there's punitive damage. But in Florida, they're capped to 3 times the compensatory damage. So it's like 33% of one, and then you slap that on top, which adds up to about $240 million that Tesla has to pay. $250 million over this. Obviously, Tesla's already appealing and all that. We'll follow the story going forward. But I had some great readings during their weekend sets. I poured through the transcript of that case as things are releasing, and now this week we also got the evidence. I haven't managed to get through all the exhibit just yet, but I got into the transcript, which was a very fun time. Hundreds of pages of just lawyers talking and some expert testimony that was interesting too. But one thing that really stood out to me as I was reading this case set is that it's not even like the core aspect of the lawsuit, which is, an unfortunate death, very grave injuries that was made through someone that clearly abused the autopilot system. That's at fault. I'm talking about the driver here, and took the blame for it. And then Tesla getting some of the blame for not doing enough to make sure that its customers don't abuse the system. Also, Tesla misleading its owners into thinking that the system can do more than it can do, which was proven in this case. So that was the core of the case. But what I did an article this week on that went kind of viral was that Tesla withheld and then lied about having all the autopilot data about the crash minutes after the crash, and then withholding this data for years and years and years, as the police was trying to get it, as the plaintiff was trying to get it. And by the plaintiff, I mean literally the family of someone who died and the family. And this is a big important thing here, because I think a lot of Tesla fans are being need an exercise in empathy here when talking about this entire issue, because they accuse the family of like targeting Tesla, just looking for a big payout and all that. Like, this is not the case. We also learned this week, we got confirmation that Tesla tried to settle this case with the family. They offered a huge amount to the family to settle the case and not go to trial. And the family said no, because there was a secrecy clause which would have prevented them to talk about it and explain what happened in this crash. So kudos to the family. Big respect for not taking the money and then exposing this whole thing. So what happened is that Tesla, within 3 minutes of the crash, the car itself, which is a known processes that Tesla put together to after a crash, it's called a collision snapshot, and it takes video from the cameras. CAN bus streams data, so the CAN bus is like everything goes through that. ADR data, package it all together, sends it to the mothership, Tesla's main servers, and then tells the car, "Hey, we got it. You can delete it now." And the car deletes that collision snapshot, which gives you all the data about it. And then what happened after that was the only reason we know that, by the way, is through this this lawsuit. So we didn't know that there's this data existed until late last year, when the plaintiff managed to get the Autopilot ECU from the crash cloned in order to get all the data from it, and then revealed that Tesla did that within 3 minutes of the crash, created the snapshot, send it, and we know now that this is a normal thing that Tesla does every time it detects a crash, and it still has internet connection, obviously, because that's needed. But so then what happened after that was like, it's pure cinema. So the crash was April 25, 2019. Within a minute, they create that. It goes to Tesla. Then there's a police investigation that happens around that. So Corporal Rizzo was the homicide investigator from the Florida Highway Patrol in charge of this case. And Rizzo was like, "All right, I want the you immediately recognize, based on what the driver said, that Autopilot, an ADAS system, not an driver assistance system, was involved in this crash." So he wanted to have the data from that to better understand the crash. Normal case. But and at the time, especially this is 2019, he didn't believe that Tesla was going to be like adversary in this case. It was going to be hostile. Like, he thought Tesla would just cooperate and like give the data, and we'll learn about this crash. The driver is already taking the blame anyway. It's not one of those crash where it's because of Autopilot and everything. Driver took the blame. However, what happened is so Rizzo has been put in contact with Tesla's attorney, Ryan McCarty, and then he asked him, "Do I need to subpoena Tesla to get the data from the crash?" And then McCarty is like, "No, you don't need to do that. I'll send you an email. I'll craft an email for you to send Tesla that asks specifically what you need to ask to get the data that you're seeking." So he's like, "I'll make it easy for you, so you don't have to go through official subpoena channel and legal channels and all that." So Rizzo does that. But then what happens is, like, since the lawyer he crafted it so that he gets only some data, not what he really wanted. He got some infotainment data, call logs, and a copy of the owner's manual, but none of the actual telemetry data from the Autopilot ECU, which is what he wanted. So that was in May. Already Tesla not playing fair, misdirecting the police towards other data rather than what they want. So Rizzo was obviously not happy with that. He didn't recognize that Tesla was misleading him, and that he just thought, okay, that's the data that they have. Never did McCarty or anyone at Tesla let him know. But by the way, we have a collision snapshot with everything you want in there. No one let him know that. But then, so what happened? He had to move forward, and in June. So a month later, June 19, Rizzo physically removed the MCU and the ECU from the Tesla, from the Model S that was involved in the crash. And then he contacts McCarty again, because again, he thinks he's being cooperative with the investigation. And he asked him, can Tesla help me get the data out of the Autopilot ECU? And McCarty is like, "Yeah, no problem. Bring him to the local service center in Coral Gables, and we'll fix that for you." So they arranged for him to meet with Michael Calafol, a Tesla technician, who during the trial testified to never having done that before. It was a first for him. He's never been asked to do that. So Rizzo gives him the MCU and ECU, which he then testified to installing in another Model S so that he can extract the data. But then he turns around and tells the police, tells Rizzo, that he couldn't access the data, that the data was corrupted and lost. Couldn't get the data from the ECU. And then he signs an affidavit claiming that he never even powered the ECU after saying that. He just connected everything and he's like, no, it's not working. You have to give up. So basically the police at this point gives up on this. So nothing happened, no data. And then what happens next is the plaintiffs start the legal process. And through the legal process, ask Tesla for this data. Every time Tesla says that the data doesn't exist, they don't know what they're talking about, they don't have this data, there's no point of having it. And there's in court there was discovery documents from Tesla stating that they showed to show the jury that Tesla was being misleading about this, because what we learned later, thanks to Mr. Alan Moore, who's a forensic engineer, he specialized in reconstructing crashes from this kind of data. They through the court, they were allowed to get a bit by bit NAND flash image clone of the Autopilot ECU. So thank God they were able to get that. And then from that, they were able to see clearly that within 3 minutes of the crash, Tesla created the snapshot, sent it to Tesla, and then deleted it from the vehicle. So only when being showed this, Tesla admitted to having the data and then sent it to the plaintiffs. So extremely shady from Tesla. Not only that, then now to find an excuse for this, for like why acting so shady for years, they claim that there was an auto delete feature that was put in place that was triggered automatically, so it wasn't some malicious things from Tesla. But then Moore was also able to find out that wasn't true, and that the auto delete feature it did exist, but was meant for something else entirely. It was not meant for that. So basically, Tesla lied all the way through to hide this data, and this data was extremely useful for the family to understand what happened, for the driver to understand what happened, for the police to understand what happened. Basically, what it showed is that Autopilot was indeed active. Autopilot detected the car that it ran into. Autopilot detected that it was not a drivable area where the car was, where it crashed into it, and yet it still drove towards it at full speed. Again, there is some indication that the driver had their feet on the accelerator as they were going through their trying to reach their phone. That's true, but it still doesn't change the fact that they were Autopilot was operating in an area where it was not supposed to operate. And then finally, it also showed all the warnings data, and there was no warnings sent. According to this data, there was no warnings sent to the driver about having to take control. So all extremely useful data in this case that Tesla they did hide for years. So pretty incriminating stuff there. And then the judge apparently told the jury that it's okay to consider this behavior into their decision making. So a lot of people that I talk to that are familiar with trials, a lot of trial lawyers, I should say, said that this particular scenario is probably a big part of the reason why they found Tesla having 33% of the responsibility for this crash. Is like if they are hiding it, is that like they knew that they were responsible. All right. And now what's going to happen is like the floodgates are open now. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think I never had a lot of hope that the legal process would be the end of Tesla. Really, I thought maybe like things will get right from the class action lawsuit over Hardware 3, which is still like years in the making, I think, and then Hardware 4 after that. I think that a lot of Tesla owners have a good case there, because Tesla clearly promised that all its cars produced in 2016 had the hardware to achieve full self-driving, unsupervised full self-driving, and it clearly does not. So I think this is a clear shot case, but it's going to take a long time to go through the court. But now I think that this case kind of opened up the floodgates for autopilot FSD crashes. And what I mean by that is, I mean that now you can, Tesla, for the first time, Tesla is not able to put all of the blames of the driver. They have to defend against the fact that they mislead the driver into thinking that the ADS system can do more than it can actually do. And they also take blame for pure defect in deployment, like driver monitoring system, autopilot working on non-highways when it was designed for highways, and things like that. But where things get crazy now is that the lawyer for this case that won this case for the plaintiffs, let's give him a shout out here because he deserves it. It's Brett something. What do I have? Brett Schreiber, lead attorney in this case. He did an interview with The Verge this week where he talked a little bit about the case, but I mentioned most of these things already. But now what's happening is that he's going for round 2 already. The guy just got the victory, and he has another case, Maldonado versus Tesla in California in Alameda State Superior Court, coming up in just over 2 months now, coming to trial. And this is another 2019 crash. So what I think we need to keep in mind right now, so what's happening now, we're just now in 2025 seeing crashes from 2018, 2019 going through court right now. And things are changing. So if you remember correctly, like we've seen 2016, 2017, 2018 crashes before go through the legal process and being dismissed, going through arbitration, things like that. Tesla is able to make them go away. But we've seen a shift in the last few months. The first case was the Apple engineer in California, which was a 2018 crash. And that was settled a few months ago. So that was the first indication that Tesla is not getting these cases dismissed anymore. They're having to settle or go to trial. So that was the first one, a 2018 crash. Now we have this case, a 2019 crash that went to trial and Tesla lost. So we're just now seeing like a 6-7 year delay on these things. And what we need to keep in mind is like the crashes are only going up. So for FSD, for example, we're not even here yet. We're not even in September 2021. So for those who are just listening and not watching, I'm showing a graph right now that shows that the mileage of FSD that just skyrocketed in 2024, and a lot of crashes came with that too. If you had autopilot, Tesla and the NHTSA started tracking crashes, I think, in 2020, and now it's over 2,000 of them, and they greatly ramped up in 2022, 2023, 2024. So what I'm saying is that we're going to see a lot more of these lawsuits happening, in which each one that goes to trial and we get access to all the evidence, it becomes easier and easier for the plaintiff, even though each case is different. And what's interesting here is in Schreiber's new case, the Maldonado case in California, which is another tragic case. A 15-year-old kid died after getting his pickup truck that his dad was driving was hit by a Tesla. I think it was another Tesla Model S. I don't remember exactly. Another, and well, in terms of like the strength of the case, Schreiber claims that this one is even stronger. That the autopilot is a different case because in the other one, the autopilot, that the case was mainly around autopilot driving in the place that it should be able to drive, and the driver is thinking that the car was okay to perform there. In this case, it was on the highway, and the pickup truck changed into the right lane, and then the Tesla rear-ended it at full speed on autopilot. So this is more of a case of a Tesla not being able to detect a vehicle in front of it, which has been quite a freaking case. So he says that the autopilot defect itself is a stronger case in this one. But on top of that, now he claims to have testimony from all the senior autopilot leadership of that time. So that, again, this is a 2019 crash. So prior up to that time is important. So we have Sterling Anderson, a name I haven't heard in a long time, CJ Moore, Andrew Carpenter, were interviewed for this, and he claims from this interview, from this testimony, to have quotes under oath now from them that basically contradicts what Elon was saying at the time. So now you have a clear case where Elon and Tesla are saying things publicly to consumer about ADAS system, while the leaders building the CDS system, the engineers within Tesla, are seeing things completely different. So that is extremely problematic. And as soon as these testimony entered the records, it could be very damageable for Tesla, and then you're gonna see everyone else using these in lawsuits, and this could be like a giant legal liability for Tesla going forward, like giant. All right, we got some new used car price data from Tesla this week, and this is wild. Based on the Car Guru Index, the average used Tesla vehicle price is now below the overall used car average. Isn't that nuts? It's absolutely. So now, according to the Car Guru Index, the average used car price is $28,000, which is crazy, by the way. While the Tesla average used car price, is $27,814. So it's about $200 cheaper to buy a used Tesla than to buy the average used car, which includes every car. While Tesla is, I don't know about you, Seb, but like I think it's still considered a premium brand. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's looking to trade in a Tesla, it's a little bit frustrating. Although
It's a little bit frustrating, but it's cheaper for people that to buy an EV now. That's good news.
That's good. Yeah, a lot more people can buy Teslas. That's great.
Yeah. So you look at the trend here. So last year, used car prices started plummeting. Well, especially Teslas, but in general too, it went down, and then in March it started recovering a bit, but not for Tesla. Tesla kept going down, while since March the used car prices have been going up a little bit. So the result is used car prices in general being up 1.22% year over year versus Tesla being down 4.59%. Sorry. So the Model Y is the one that's hurting the most because it's the one that had the highest volume, and this one is down almost 12% year over year, which is nuts. Obviously, it's nothing compared to Cybertruck, which is down 30%. But Cybertruck, like it's Tesla at this time last year, Tesla was selling like just the Foundation series and all that. So Cybertruck prices have actually regained 0.88% over the last 30 days. That's good. The Model 3 is also stabilizing now, up 0.2%, but Model X down 2.33%, Model S down 5%, and Model Y down 0.5% over the last 30 days. So not going good on that.
It's crazy the Model S prices are lower than the Model Y prices.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of
old ones, right?
Yeah, old ones that are dragging the price down. Obviously, like the more recent it is, the better it is for the average price. The Model X prices are not doing too bad, too considering, because they're also pretty old. They're still $10,000 more than 10,000 more than the Model X on average, Model S on average. So, while new, I think there's, unless they change, it's $5,000 difference. I think new. So.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. Tesla used car prices lower than average used car prices. All right. Dojo is dead.
Oh.
Dojo is over. So that's a Bloomberg report from this week that says that basically over the last few weeks, 20 members of the Dojo team have quit, left, and they went to this new density AI startup started by Ganesh Venkataraman, the head of Dojo program until 2023 when he left. And then Peter Bannon was already overseeing all chip making at Tesla, both AI chip and the Dojo chip. Well, the AI inference chip, the one that gets into the hardware 4, hardware 5, and hardware 6 and all that, and the Dojo chip. Reportedly, he just left now Tesla, so that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and Elon basically killed the project at this point. crazy thing with all that is that 2 weeks ago at Tesla's earnings, Elon was like praising Dojo, saying that it was going to be a big deal and all that. And now today, this morning, he confirmed the Bloomberg report, basically confirmed it. He's always a little bit sketchier than the, he didn't go as right as saying, yeah, Bloomberg is right. He just said, yeah, we don't really need Dojo anymore. But he was like praising it 2 weeks ago, and now it's dead in the water, basically. Yeah, just in June, he was saying Tesla Dojo AI training compute is making progress. We start bringing Dojo 2 online later this year. It takes 3 major iterations. The new technology to be great. Dojo 2 is good, but Dojo 3 will be great. So great that it's canceled, guys. Yeah, I mean, we kind of seen that happening. The Dojo project has been lagging behind quite a bit. Tesla has been increasingly relying more on NVIDIA, and they've been buying billions of dollars of product from there. But there's a lot of like things that are worrying to me on that front. I think the timing of this with the XAI investment that's supposed to happen at Tesla too, Elon threatening not to build AI project at Tesla if it doesn't get a majority, well, not 25% of voting shares. I think this all plays together at some point. Like Elon diverting NVIDIA chip that was supposed to go to Tesla, diverting them to XAI, Tesla recruiting, XAI recruiting from the same talent pool that Tesla AI needs, Elon bragging about XAI being able to deploy a certain amount of compute power within a record amount of time. Meanwhile, Tesla supposedly couldn't take delivery of the chips because they couldn't do the same thing on XAI, which is build it in record time. And now Tesla's Dojo project, which was technically a competitor to XAI's AI data center, is now being killed. Like, at some point, you have to ask the question: is like, does this benefit Elon or Tesla? Because these are not the same thing. I mean, Tesla is a company. I'm not talking about share price here. I'm talking about the business itself. And I think it's clear who it benefits most, and going straight to his pockets. All right, this one was hilarious. I got the tip, and like I was like, oh, I need to write this. This is hilarious, but then I couldn't stop laughing. I needed to calm myself down before I could write this thing because it was too funny. Because I know that like the ultimate Tesla shareholders' dream would be like U.S. Army buys Tesla Cybertruck, buys a fleet of Tesla Cybertruck. That would be like huge news for Tesla. The Army start using this electric pickup truck. And that's exactly what's happening. The Army is buying the Tesla Cybertruck, 2 of them. So not a crazy fleet, but 2 of them. However, it's not to use them themselves in military operation or anything like that. It's for fear, and I'm not kidding here, I'm quoting them. It's for fear that the enemy is going to start using the Cybertruck, and they want to make sure that they have the right weapon to blow them up. So the U.S. Air Force Test Center, which operates within the missile range, the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. So as the name implies, it's where they shoot missiles at things. And one of these things, they wanted to be a Cybertruck. So they just requested 33 new vehicle as targets. And that includes sedans, pickup, SUVs, and even bungo trucks. Anything that they think that the enemy might use, and they want to make sure that they have their guidance system can detect them and blow them up. However, out of these 33 vehicles, there's only one of them that is mentioned by brand that they say they want, like all these sedans and the other pickup trucks and everything. It can be like anything basically. But for the they wanted specifically 2 Cybertrucks, and then they had to bring an explanation for that, because otherwise like it sounds a little bit weird, like why the US military wants a specific truck if it's going to blow them up. It's like it can be seen as some kind of form of favoritism or anything like that. So they said redacted, but we know it's the Air Force at this point. Intend to use specific Tesla manufactured vehicles for target vehicle training flight test events. In the operating theater, it is likely the type of vehicle used by the enemy well, is this spoiler? In the operating theater, it is likely the type of vehicle used by the enemy may transition, like it's poorly written, transition to Tesla Cybertrucks, as they have been found not to receive the normal extent of damage expected upon major impact. So basically, they are getting sold by this the unfortunate explosion at Trump Tower, like the military guy that blew himself off, and then Elon bragged about, hey, look at the pickup truck. It was not working, by the way, but it's still working great. So they just want to make sure that they can blow this up properly if the enemy ends up using it. It's pretty nuts. All right, we got some news from Ford. Unfortunately, Ford is putting one of their new pickup trucks, their new electric pickup trucks, on the back burner. So we should know a lot more about Ford's plan on it's on the 11th. So yeah, it's coming up. It's on Monday. So we're gonna have Jeff there. That's gonna cover that for us. But there's a lot of fear that even though they plan to announce their plans for the a more affordable electric vehicle platform and all that, there's also fear that they might announce a la GM that they're gonna move to hybrids and plug-in hybrids and all that amid a slower transition to electric vehicle in the US. And we're seeing the first signs of that as Automotive News reported that Ford has communicated to suppliers that it's delaying a specific electric pickup truck that they plan to bring to production in 2027. Now it's being delayed to 2028. And same thing for the next gen e-Transit that was supposed to come in 2026. It's also being delayed to 2028. So it's unfortunate, but that's the situation right now. They find a hard time to sell these trucks in the U.S. and Ford's main market is the U.S. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and see what they announce on Monday. But it's not, I'm tempering my expectation based on this report. Then Lucid had not so great earnings this week, and they reduced their production target while they extended the range of their production target downward from 20,000 units to now 18 to 20,000 units. So that will point to lower deliveries. And the main problem, they said that they're not happy about the production ramp of the Gravity right now. It's supposed to close the gap between the Air and the next generation vehicle, the mid-size ones that are supposed to be more mass market coming next year. But there's still some work to be done until they ramp that up. I think they still have a good demand for it, so it's not really a demand problem. It's more of a production ramp problem. But they're still confident that they're gonna get there in the next few months. And so they still see a chance of delivering 20,000 units this year or producing 20,000 units, but they see a potential for that going down to by 2,000 units. But they still have $3.6 billion on hand, and they're losing about $700 million a quarter right now. So it's not great, but it's enough to get them to that next gen platform or mass market vehicle. So I still not sounding the alarm on Lucid just yet. All right, we have one more quick piece of news that I want to discuss, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. I see already plenty of people in the comments. So we're going to have time to talk to you guys. So if you have a question for us, you can put it in the comment section right now. I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. Just want to talk about the Acura RSX. I'm going to check that one out next week. If I can get into the US. I'm going to the Monterey Car Week. So the Concours of Elegance and all that in Monterey, Pebble Beach. And Acura invited me actually, and they have their RSX unveiling there. And they teased it this week. I think this is the only. This is just a single picture here. So it's rumored, according to these releases, to be a small coupe-ish SUV crossover, which is interesting because RSX obviously was one of the name of the Integra back in the day, which was a sedan coupe. And now it's an SUV, so it's they're kind of doing a little bit
Mustang.
of a Mustang move. They're using their old brand
Mustang.
So we'll see about that. And then this about I'm really curious about the car itself and everything. But what's most interesting is that this is like an actual on the slash Acura vehicle. So it's their own platform. It's not one of the ones shared with GM. It's going to be built at the Honda EV Hub in Ohio, and it's using the Zero platform. It's also going to have a few new features. The new Asimo OS operating system is going to run on it. So we'll see how's that working. And yeah, I'm excited for it. We're gonna check that out next week. So we'll see about the podcast next week. I'm not sure if it's gonna be the same time and everything, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, you're going to be West Coast time, so
yeah, West Coast time, and I there's like I'm there for 5 days, and there's activities every day, so I'm gonna have to make sure.
Rivian's got a new, like a one of one special vehicle for that as well.
Nope, I'm gonna check that out.
All right, Donald Parrish says, I think Elon Musk has cost Tesla a lot more than 30 billion in lost sales over the past year. Maybe not 30 billion, but
yeah, not 30 billion, because like sales are down about 13% this year. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, you extend that for the next few years, it's going to be way more than that. Yeah.
All right, Don Anderson says, question, with last week's tease on the updated Bolt, do you think GM targets matching the range of the original 266 miles? I think it was actually 259, with the more energy-dense Ultium platform, therefore saving weight and cost. Do they add a little range, getting it up over the desirable 300 miles, or do they go for a grand slam and pump out as much range as can fit in? GM seems to be branding the Equinox around 319 miles of range, so I would be shocked, although pleasantly so, if it came in over that. Don, I've got some bad news for you. I think the Bolt is going to have very energy not dense batteries. I think
LFP cells.
Yeah, LFP cells are planned. And so getting to even 266 miles might be kind of a stretch. I would imagine 250-ish or whatever. I think the idea is to get the price down, to keep it small. I don't see anything near 300 coming. That's just my prediction.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think unless they do like a 2 battery pack size thing, I'm not sure that they would do that. But like Don said, I think he was on the right track when you compare it to the Equinox. You need some differentiating feature here, so I think they're going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter range. But yeah, around the 250 mark, you're doing pretty good. And with the original Bolt, its main problem was not really its range, was its fast charging capacity,
right,
which was not fast at all. So if they can combine a big improvement with that, it's still going to be a better road trip car. Even with lower range, it would be a better road trip car than the prior Bolt.
And it's got NACS, so
it's got NACS, maybe even a little Super Cruise in there as an option would be nice.
That would be really nice.
There's a lot of things they can do to improve the Bolt quite a bit this next gen.
All right, the details of Tesla cover-up in this crash are worthy of a 60 minutes expose before 60 minutes got neutered. But more people need to understand how evil Tesla and Elon are.
Unless like Trump, it would be on Trump's order, then 60 Minutes will jump on it.
Right.
Like, all right, Trump wants us to trash Tesla. Yeah, I mean, I got interviewed by the Washington Post on my report on this, so they're gonna release a report on this too. So I think more people are gonna learn about it. And I was really upset about when I was reading this and putting the story together, because I don't remember Tesla like doing that back in the days. I'm sure they might have done it and everything, but I was such a big fan of Tesla. Still am to a certain degree, but this is not a company I remember doing things like that, like shady things, like families trying to understand how their daughter died. Imagine your daughter is dead in a crash. The driver admitted to the blame, so it's like, all right, you have to give him credit for that. He screwed up, but he admitted and everything. But then he explained that he thought that autopilot was in control of the car. So then you want to ask, you want to know all the factors that contributed to your daughter's death. That's just a normal human reaction. And then you want to eliminate those factors to make her death give some meaning, even though like you see, they won't bring her back, and to prevent this from happening to anyone else's daughter. It's all like super simple stuff. And then you're like, no, you're not going to understand what happened because I'm going to hide this data for 5 years. It's gross.
Yeah. All right. It blows open a bunch of Tesla wrongful death legal cases where Tesla claimed they didn't have the data, or where the data was miraculously showing FSD
Yeah,
autopilot switched off moments before impact?
that's a good point. I think it's gonna reopen a lot of cases for sure. Now there is cases where Tesla won't have this data if the car is too destroyed, if it doesn't have internet connection. There's a reason why Tesla wouldn't have this data. However, if Tesla tells you it doesn't have the data, now it's not. No one is just gonna say okay. And now everyone's gonna be like, all right, let's make sure. Let me get access to that ECU. This guy Alan Moore, the forensic engineer, is gonna get a lot of jobs now trying to clone these ECU.
All right. Ed Watt asks when the Tesla uploads the crash data package and then deletes the local copy. Is there any explanation why it doesn't just keep the local copy on the vehicle? Is the local storage that limited?
Okay, now just to be clear, so the car packages a collision snapshot, it's called, with all the data together in a nice neatly package, everything that has to do with the collision basically, and send that out. We still have all the data on the ECU. Once it was cloned and we got access to it, they were able to get the data. They didn't have the snapshot. The snapshot was deleted. All the neatly data, like they package it really nice, or they get the video of all the angles from different cameras. They get the leading up to the crash, the autopilot, what it was doing up to the crash. All these things neatly packaged, not just the raw data coming in. It's a nice snapshot that an engineer can just open up and like quickly understand what happened. That's it. So that's what was deleted after that. All the raw data is still there, and once they were able to extract it, and then they were able to see in the car logs that it created the snapshot, sent it to Tesla, then deleted it, then got back that Tesla got it, and then deleted it.
So he continues, how does Tesla's behavior compare to how other OEMs handle this type of crash data and crash investigations with ADS? So I don't think most cars upload the data.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think for most part, like the ADAS computer acts as a black box, and you need to get the computer and you extract the data. I think Tesla, to its credit, is like the most connected automaker out there, and it's able to do that. It's just now it's using its power for bad instead of its power for good,
Right.
in this case. But yeah, I'm sure other automakers were caught like hiding data, for example. Like it's not. I'm not singling out Tesla as being the worst automaker out there. Like obviously Tesla wasn't participating in Dieselgate, for example, but still, like in this case, I'm a Tesla reporter. I report on Tesla, and I see that, and I think it's bad, and I think it should be highlighted.
All right, Carl in San Diego. The last time I checked a Tesla death spreadsheet, 2 of the deaths happened 20 minutes from my house. There are a lot of these. I didn't know there was a Tesla death spreadsheet. Is that like a Google Doc out there somewhere?
Yeah, I know there's like I think 50 or so that fatal
Ooh.
crashes where Tesla ADS system have been involved.
All right, Donald Parrish says FSD has been really good, very good for me for over a year. Have a hard time believing in significant crashes with newer versions and hardware 4.
Really? What makes you believe a hard time? Like they happen. They have been reported to NHTSA. They Autopilot hardware 4 and 3 makes significant mistake. They just makes them over every 500 mile or so. So once you add a lot of mileage, it adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so there's so many cars with FSD on the road. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of Teslas,
Yeah.
maybe even millions of Teslas with FSD on the road.
With the hardware for FSD, yeah, FSD
Yeah.
active, I don't think it's in the billions right now.
All right, so you got hundreds of thousands, and it is 99.99% not going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's that's still a lot of
The
deaths.
the data that's always, I think, it refers the best to me is like Ashok Elswani, the head of FSD, said it is like the goal is to be safer than human, and based on that data, humans crash every 700,000 miles. So that's the rate of human crashes, 700,000 miles, which makes sense. Like most people, like they never get into a crash, or they get into like a fender bender or whatever, and then an actual like airbag crash is pretty rare. Tesla's, so you want to get the critical, that's him saying it, he wants to get the critical miles, the critical disengagement number between miles No, the other way around. The number of miles between critical disengagement to be the same as, or ultimately better than the mileage between human crashes. So that's 700,000 miles. The best data we have right now, which is crowdsourced data because Tesla refuses to share any data, is every 500 miles or so. Actually, that was like at peak of V13 hardware 4. In the last few updates, it's degraded a little bit to around 440 miles or so. So every 440 miles is a critical disengagement. Now that doesn't mean that the critical disengagement is going to be a crash, but it's a high potential of a crash, or a mistake that you cannot allow the system to make. So people intervene. It's even, let's say that the robotaxi version with the supervisor move to the passenger seat is like 3 times better than that. That's still 1,500 miles. So like it's not even close to 700,000 miles.
Yeah. All right. FSD is pretty restrictive. I'm looking at phone and screen, painfully so. I agree. Like even looking at the, like trying to map something, I will often get kicked out of FSD and get strikes for, doing things I would just normally do even without FSD. Like obviously looking at the phone, it's not something you want to do. But even like, doing stuff on the screen, like finding music or finding a venue to look to GPS to, sometimes will get you kicked out. Dean McManus says one point about the Model S is that the earliest models are 2012, where the Model X really started selling in 2016.
He's talking about the price difference, and that was
yeah.
Plus
He's
the
right
Model
X was 10K plus more than the S. It was at one point, yeah. I think it's less now.
That's fair.
Nothing wrong with plug-in hybrids if people use them. Easiest way to give them tax credit so it doesn't cost anymore. I think he's talking about Ford. If Ford would just give us a plug-in Maverick, that would be great. I agree.
I think we might see that happening very soon. Like, and maybe they not go plug-in hybrids. Maybe they go extended range thing, like Scout.
That would be great.
That would be.
I mean, that is kind of a plug-in hybrid. Same end result, just different.
Yeah, different configuration. But I do like the changing of the terminology. Like EV first,
right?
ICE engine secondary.
Yep. Did you discuss that the new Bolt EUV will launch with LFP batteries from CATL in China? GM will lose lots of money on tariffs. Spring Hill production won't be until late 2027.
Yeah, I mean, we anticipated that. It's nothing too crazy. It's the same thing is happening with Tesla. Same thing is happening with Ford. Basically, they're all trying to build up their LFP battery production capacity in the US, but that takes time. And CATL is still king.
Carl Diego, too many new EVs are relying on 100 kilowatt hour batteries, a sign that they were designed years ago. That battery size isn't sustainable. Already old way of thinking. I mean, for big SUVs and pickups, like 100 kilowatt is the low end. Like, Rivian's at 140, GM's like over 200 kilowatt hours. Ram was talking about some crazy 250 or something. But yeah, I think cars, the sweet spot's like 60 or 70 kilowatt hours.
But like you said, it's not really about like kind of fixation of like making big battery. It's in the US, it's a problem where people like big cars. If you want a big car, if you want a decent range, you're gonna have to have a big battery. So I think it's like a very much of a US problem with the fixation on bigger vehicles, which has seeped to other markets. By the way, it's not just an American thing. Like in Canada, it's the same, and it's happening also slowly but surely in other markets like China. But yeah, I mean, you go to Europe and look at their EVs option. They have plenty of EV option with way smaller battery pack. Like I'm just thinking a company like Audi, for example. Audi is in Europe. I don't want to say all their EV models, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But most of the EV models, just to be fair, have 2 battery pack options, and then they launch these same EV models in the US with just about the bigger battery pack option. That tells you it's not because they are like they absolutely want to sell bigger batteries. It's because that's what works in the US. That's it.
All right, Marco Dobranic says, if all the world except USA switches all sales to battery electric vehicles, is USA market big enough to stay on ICE and hybrids? That's a
Well,
weird
yeah.
question to ask because, like, normally I would be like, well, but
It's what's happening.
it's
It's
what's
not.
happening.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening. It's the like globally we are closer like 25%. There's plenty of market over 30%. Like China is hovering around 30. There's several European market over 70. There's Norway that's basically 100 now. Canada was at like 30% before the incentive removed. So it's happening everywhere except the US is stuck at like 8-10%. So yeah, it's a big market. So yeah, it's gonna work for like the local automakers are gonna adapt to the market, but they're gonna be stuck in that market and they're not gonna be competitive elsewhere because of the weak EV market in the US.
Yeah, and then at some point, EVs are going to get so good outside the U.S. that they're, even with all the crazy stuff that the Trump administration has been putting on them, like at registration and just all the silly stuff, they're still going to be better. Like people are still going to want them. So, question for Hardware 3 FSD cars: how much time is reasonable for Tesla to deliver on its original promise of full self-driving? I think we've passed that probably. Tesla can't expect people to hold off on to cars for 10 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that believes that they're going to get a nice little retrofit on their Hardware 3 cars and it's going to become a full self-driving unsupervised vehicle. How old is your Hardware 3 car? Mine is 2018.
Mine is 2020.
Yeah, so like, let's say it happens within the next 3 years. You think that Tesla is going to deliver unsupervised self-driving on 10 plus years old hardware? Like it's just not going to happen. It's even if there's a new computer in there, like it's not the only thing that's improved with hardware 4, and probably not the only thing that's going to improve with hardware 5 too. The computer, the cameras have also improved. I wouldn't be surprised if a radar shows up at some point back or something like that, which would be weird, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Tesla is making it clear now with their hardcore lawyers that this hardware 3 stuff and probably the hardware 4 too is gonna be resolved in court. It's not Tesla's not gonna make things right for you.
Yeah, and if in court, there's been a few like small claims courts that have won. And
it was actually an arbitration. So we have this guy, Mr. Dobbin, I think his name is, in Washington, that's been like leading an effort to show people how to go through arbitration with Tesla and get yourself reimbursed for full self-driving. But that's so frustrating to me because it's not an easy process. Like obviously he's an arbitration lawyer, so it was easy for him, but relatively easy. And people can get through it without having a lawyer that you're gonna have to pay for that. It's doable, but it's you go against those again hardcore lawyers. It's not fun. So I think the class action lawsuit that's going through right now is going to take a long time, but I think that's what's going to happen.
All right, 2 more questions. How successful is regen in mountains in Slovenia and other Alps? They're like 1 to 2 mile altitude driving downhill for like 10 miles. How much range do you regain? So even a long time ago, I had like a Prius plug-in, and I took it through the Rockies, and it was so it had like 10 miles of electric range, and it was out. Like I had and then I regened 10 miles of electric range back into the Prius. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It depends on your car, obviously. It depends on your car's capacity to regen. So like your Prius was probably very limited, and also depends on the weight of the vehicle. But yeah, if you're going downhill for 10 miles, you're gonna get a few, probably like again, depending on the car, you're gonna get a few percentage points of the battery backup.
Kurt Nielsen says, on my commute to work, I've seen multiple Tesla drivers with their phone mounted to the steering wheel while putting on makeup or some other activity with obvious no hands on wheel. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tricks to kind of to make it seem like your eyes are on the road when they're really on the phone. I guess that's why it's not foolproof. But
yeah, no one is like making the argument that a lot of crashes that happened with autopilot, the driver was abusing the system, not using it as intended. Like it's not I see a lot of like Tesla fans just saying, "Oh, it's going to be thrown out in appeal because the driver was at fault and everything." Even the jury agreed that the driver was more at fault than Tesla. It's not. It's not the case. It's more about, is Tesla really doing enough to prevent that from happening through driver monitoring, through geofencing some of those features. That was the core of that particular cases. And then also there's the issues like, is it good enough to even be released, because Autopilot often doesn't detect stationary object on the highway, which is the case of the NHTSA investigation regarding emergency vehicles stop on the side of the road. So there is other potential defect to look into. But my point has always been, like, one of the best example I've seen, and I was trashed by the Tesla community for saying that. I don't remember when it was early days of FSD, and it was this guy that was, I think, went to golf, got a little bit tipsy on the golf course with his friend, and then drove back in his Tesla with FSD, saying like, yeah, I don't need to. I don't need to call a Uber or something. I have my car with FSD. I can drive drunk in that. Is like, obviously this guy's at fault. So I'm not defending this guy. He screwed up bad. The problem is like, why did he think that? As Tesla contributed to him thinking that? And if you look, especially like, I was kind of shocked at what Tesla was tweeting in the last few weeks as this case was happening, because you keep seeing them tweeting about the car drives itself. They see the FSD gives you back time. That's an actual quote from Tesla. How does it give you back time? Yeah, I have to be paying attention when I'm driving, so I cannot be doing something else. It's like, where's the time coming? But like, things that like, they're giving a lot of ammunition to these future lawsuits at the same time. So, like I said, I think Tesla is like going to be flooding, like completely drowning in a flood of lawsuit coming their way regarding FSD and Autopilot in the next few years. And yeah, I'm starting to understand why in 2022 Elon was talking about hiring hardcore lawyers, hardcore street fighting lawyers. That's an actual quote. Like, he saw it coming. He saw the lawsuits coming. He's like, ooh, let me do the math here. We just received 200 lawsuits in the last month. Let's say that 5% of them go to trial. Like, I need an army of lawyer to work for me to that. It's like, he saw it coming. He's no moron. He's just an asshole. All right, that's it for us this week on the Electrek Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe. All these things are free to do, and they are really helpful. And hopefully we can do it same times next week. But like I said, I'm going to be in California, and I'm going to be going around the Pebble Beach, Monterey Car Week. They have a bunch of events, so we'll see what's the timing that works for me and Seth. But hopefully we'll see you same time, same place next week. Have a good one.